let's knock out the WNBA stuff, because I've seen you guys do some WNBA content, but the big story coming out of All-Star Weekend, whether I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but the WNBA players decided to wear in unison a pay us what you owe us shirt before the All-Star game. And then Kelsey Plum, for some reason, tried to throw a monkey wrench in like the unity. I don't know, somewhere. She's been doing a lot of weird stuff lately. It's kind of making me feel like Darren Waller really might have been onto something with this chick, man. Something's a little off with her. But what do you think of the pay us what you owe us movement for the WNBA?
Well, number one, I said this on another pod. You got to show unity. If they think you are one step apart, now people blew that out of proportion because everybody knew what Caitlin Clark and her team was. They was hanging out with Courtney Williams and Teaspoon the night before, and they was out there getting lit up. You know, Mario, and they wasn't there the morning before. So I think that was kind of blown up the way it shouldn't have been. But at the same time, there's certain stuff you need to say, and there's a time and place for everything. So, you know, you don't bring that up in a press conference after you just showed unity. That's kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face, if you really want me to be honest with you. Yeah. But as far as the W asking for more money, the thing is this. I don't think people understand how restricted there are as ball players. I don't think people understand how restricted they are. I'm getting my notes right here. As there's 4 rules in the current collective bargaining agreement that hold them back. They are banned from overseas play and finishing their season. So they're in the middle of the season and they have to be back by April. They have to be back by April. Otherwise, they risk getting fired. They have endorsement limitations. So anything that conflicts with WNBA sponsors, they can't sponsor. Like if the WNBA does Yo Play yogurt and I decide to do Greek yogurt and they want to endorse me, they can't do it. Versus NBA players, they have endorsements out the yin yang. Business restrictions, they cannot have any business involving basketball, involving sports media. They cannot have that. Brand control, they cannot fully monetize on their likeness or their footage or their brand. So it's more than just money. I think when people say pay us like you owe us, hey, I can live with making $75,000 a year as a ball player if I'm able to make my money off the court. Now, if you give me that $75K and I can make $15 million off the court, we straight. But the thing is, if you're taking away my money on the court and off the court, something's got to give. This is basketball. This is not a damn wrestling promotion. This is not Vern Gagne's promotion where I'm gonna take half of your Japan money, and then when you come back to the territory, I'm gonna take some more money from you as well. That's like him and Hulk Hogan fell out. So the thing is, I don't mind them asking for more. I think it's a common misconception about these young women asking for just money. I want to control my own destiny. These NBA players and all these other players, they get to run their businesses. They get to capitalize on their likeness. They get to capitalize on major endorsements. Can you imagine how many major endorsements that Nafisa Correa has probably missed out on, that Asia Wilson has probably missed out on, that even, you know, the face of the league, Caitlin Clark, has missed out on because of this collective bargaining agreement that's in place? So I don't think it's so much as people, those young women wanting money, much so as financial freedom. Like I said, if you give me $75,000, I'm cool with that. But I have the potential, especially right now in the social media days, right now, as you can see, the whole Courtney Williams Teaspoon live stream, that got more attention than the orange carpet did. Everybody was on the internet talking about the W, talking about the stud buzz. Everybody was talking about that, including myself. Right. So if I can capitalize on that off the court, I don't mind playing for pride on the court. But if you're going to, you know, for lack of a better terms, with no Vaseline on me every time you get a chance 3 ways from Sunday, then guess what? Of course, I'm going to come out and say, pay me like you owe me. I don't have control of my brand. I don't have control of my likeness. I can't subsidize my income overseas. I got to be back by a certain time. Otherwise, you're going to find me. And there's no leeway nowhere. So I think the common misconception is, oh, they're just asking for more money. They're asking for a hell of a lot more freedom than they have right about now. Like I said, can you imagine the NBA telling Michael Jordan, you can't go with Nike because our sponsor is Reebok? Can you imagine Magic Johnson being restricted? Magic Johnson didn't make all of his money on the court when he was playing. He made the majority of his money off the court. When he signed that 20-year, $20 million deal, his first year in endorsements, he made over $10 million off the court, and that was in the 80s. He had his own video game and everything. Can you imagine if they told Michael Jordan and Larry Bird, you can't make EA Sports games because our sponsor, Super Nintendo, doesn't allow that? There would never have been no Larry Bird versus Michael Jordan video game. So I think that it's a common misconception about these women just asking for money. I want more freedom within my contract. I want more freedom to do what I can off the court. I want more freedom to handle business ventures. I want more freedom to handle this. That's why you see certain players, they're all over the place when it comes to these endorsements. That's like if you see Kelsey Plum all over the place in endorsement, Angel Reese all over the place with endorsements, Asia Wilson all over the place with these endorsements, because guess what? I don't make that much money on the court, and guess what? I can't subsidize my income off the court. So I got to grab as much as I can while I still can. And the shelf life of a lot of these WNBA players sometimes it's kind of short. We saw Deja Kelly. She was hot as a firecracker coming into the Las Vegas Aces, but she got cut during the off season. So the shelf life is kind of low. Plus, right now, I do emphasize right now, there's not a lot of roster spots. Remember, the Golden State Valkyrie, for as good as they is, they cut both their first round picks this year. They cut both of them. So you got to be the cream of the crop if you want to play in the W.
It's funny, you bring up the Valkyries. When you expand the team, they only had to pay $250 million to have that team. Well, now the next crop of 3 teams that are coming in the next, 26, 28, 30, they're going to be paying $400 million, $600 million. So the Valkyries are lucky. They're very profitable. And I think the main problem with this whole thing is that a lot of people see the shirts and let's be honest, a lot of the WNBA fans that are out now are kind of just tuning in for Caitlin Clark. They don't understand what's happening and they see all this stuff. And when I saw it, I said, people thought they were talking to the fans. I'm like, why would they're talking to the WNBA. They're talking to the league owners. They're talking, the players want more money from them. Now, I think this is a situation, one of the rare situations where 2 things can be true at the same time. Both sides are right. Me and you have a day job. We go to work, we punch in, we get a paycheck every 2 weeks. But would you like to do the same job you're doing now, but for like $10,000 extra dollars, $20,000 extra dollars? Who doesn't want more money? I didn't understand the kind of pushback, like, oh, y'all should be happy with what you got, that you got a league, da 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 da. I'm like, no, who doesn't want more money? I do. Like, I would love more money. If my job called me tomorrow and said, hey, Jeremy, you're doing a really good job. We're going to give you $20,000 extra dollars. What am I supposed to say? No, like, I don't want that. No, the players were right to ask for more money. Here's the problem. There's a difference between revenue and profit. Yes, the WNBA is bringing in more and more money. The problem is they're like $50 million in the red every year. Literally, they've never been profitable. The NBA basically owns 60%, or I shouldn't say owns, but they fund about 60% of the WNBA's operating cost. So if the league all of a sudden started jacking up salaries, then they really won't turn a profit, and the league can't operate, because then the NBA eventually is going to be like, yo, we're not giving you 60% to run your league. And then you're giving, and yes, you can, like, a lot of upstarts work that way, right? The first couple of years of upstart companies, yeah, you're bringing in zero, but we can make enough to pay people. That's 2 separate different things. So this is how the WNBA players are getting paid now. But once you start getting these players who want X amount of dollars, and they don't want the NBA money. They want, NBA gets 50% of the league revenue. Currently, I believe the WNBA is getting something. It's like a weird, like,
it's 9%.
It's like 9%, but they can get up to 25% if they hit a certain profit threshold, which they've never hit. So, like, whatever, if they get 9% outside of the weird language in that contract, which is what they're fighting for in this next collective bargaining agreement. But I don't have a problem with them asking for money, but also you have to understand that, okay, that also comes at a cost. Y'all going to go back to these commercial flights, or worse yet, buses. Y'all going to have to start scaling back on some of these luxuries that you fought so hard for. Which one do you want? And I think right now they see the boom of a mixture, and let's be honest, a majority of it is Caitlin Clark, whether you like her or not, plus some of the other young talent that is kind of piggybacking off of that, the ride, the exposure on ESPN, First Take having segments about the WNBA. All that's well and good. To me, that should have been part of the plan. Continue as usual. You will naturally grow from this. And maybe in the next collective bargaining agreement, then you ask for your 50% revenue split. But you can't ask for it if you haven't made any money yet. Like like you're going to sink your own ship that way. And I get that it's exciting now because this is the most success you ever had, but it's no different than, honestly, it's literally like we just had the NFL draft. A lot of these guys come from poverty, come from nothing. We just heard about this guy who, in the NBA draft, I'm sorry, not NFL, but he said, I had to, we ran our house on a generator and now I get to go buy my mom a house. Like that's what happens. You get, you come from nothing or you come from very little and all of a sudden you get this jump, this boost. And now you want to spend all the money. Now you want to go do these things you couldn't do before. And this is what the WNBA players are doing. They're seeing all this success. They're seeing money coming in. However, they're not realizing that, oh, wait, it's coming in, but we're working in a deficit. We're always working in a deficit. And I think whoever's in charge of negotiating on the players' behalf, on the Players Association side, needs to talk some of these star players down because it's not a good look when you have your players outwardly, defiantly fighting for whatever you feel is equal pay without the understanding that you're not making the same. You're not getting the same revenue as the NBA. That's the difference. It's literally the difference, right? We had this issue with soccer, right? Men's and women's soccer during like 2 Olympics ago. The women make 13% of the revenue. The problem is they only made like $400 million. The men got 8%, but they made $600 billion. Like it's a lot. Like the women got a bigger percentage of the cake, but the men got less, but the men make so much more money. So it's not a fair apples to apples comparison when it comes to revenue splits between the NBA and the WNBA. And I think somebody who is smart enough and objective enough to get into these rooms with these women and explain that, they'll have an easier time because, again, as you know, optics are everything. Optics are everything. It looks bad when the league doesn't make any money and now you have the women on there asking for more money. And that hurts the players' causes, whether it's just or not. I believe in everybody should get every dollar that they earn, and the women do earn it. And the league is more popular than it's ever been. However, they need to kind of reel it back in. A little too much dip on the chip now. Like you got to be smart because you want more money now, but you're not. Collective bargaining agreements aren't for you now. They're for the next generation. You need to fight for the next generation. And a lot of these players are young enough that they're going to eat off that, but it's very short-sighted the way they're going about negotiating, and they're not going to get their way if they continue on this path, in my opinion. But that's just me.
Well, the thing is this: I don't think they should have opted out the first year.
I don't either. Smart.
I don't think they should have opted out the first year. Especially this year, a lot of the star players that injury bug been biting, and it's been biting hard. It's been biting like a gnat in the Georgia summer. So it's been biting. Remember, Caitlin Clark got hurt. Asia Wilson, she was out for a few games. Angel Reese got hurt. Ariel Atkins got hurt. Nafisa Corrier, she was out. That injury bug has been biting. I remember Paige Becker, #1 overall pick, she got hurt. So you can't anticipate injuries and things like that. I know everybody thought that everything was just going to shoot up as usual. But if you really look at it, although ticket sales has been up 15%, the ratings has been down a little bit more as of this year. Now, granted, the skills challenge and everything else has been up. But if you look at the viewership from last year to this year for the All-Star game, then it went down significantly. But what it
That's
did,
because Caitlin Clark was out, though. Like you saw that and you reflected that in the ticket prices. Ticket prices went down half. And it got me in trouble on social media again. I said that Caitlin Clark is the only real superstar in the WNBA. Not because I think she's the best player, because I don't. I'm saying in terms of impact and what she means to that league, nobody moves the needle more than she does. Asia Wilson is the best player. She's multiple-time MVP. She's on the best team, champion. But then why hasn't they grown to the level that Caitlin Clark has produced? There's levels to it. Like Asia Wilson undoubtedly is a superstar within that bubble, within the league, and to people who actually follow WNBA. But I'm speaking for the casual mainstream viewer, which is where I reside, right? Like I know some players, but I'm in it because Caitlin Clark had made me interested in it. And it's hard to ignore cultural impact, regardless of where that came from. We can argue about, it's only a certain demographic that's tuning in and blah, 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 blah. Who cares? People are watching. People are, you're supposed to be putting on. So I'm not a fan of the players taking cheap shots at her. I'm not a fan of Kelsey Plum talking shit about her every chance he gets. Like, and the funny thing is, I thought about this the other day when Kelsey Plum made that comment about Team Clark not being at the meeting or whatever, not wanting to wear the shirts or however she phrased it. I said, this is genius. Nothing fuels leagues better than rivalries. If she's trying to be the bad guy to Caitlin Clark because she knows how much people love Caitlin Clark, she's doing an excellent job. Part of me wanted it to be by design. Because there was things like she made the fan take off the Caitlin Clark jersey at the game.
Yeah,
like it's little that like, and that's why
subtle jabs.
Yeah, that's why when I heard the comments, I said she's doing it again. I'm like, she's got to be doing it on purpose, right? Like she's purposely positioning herself as the arch enemy veteran, because it's different with Angel Reese. They have the college thing that's different, but Angel Reese, for all is not on Caitlin Clark's level as a player. You could talk about rebounds and you can do all this stuff. She's not the star player. She's a cultural pop, TikTok, all that good stuff, social podcasting. She's a star, right? But she's not, in terms of basketball stars, she's not on the same level as Kelsey Plum or Caitlin Clark is. So I think Kelsey Plum is positioning herself as, I'm the vet. I was the Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark and blah, 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 blah. And I think she's doing that to drive interest because she knows people are going to hate on the fact that she is seemingly hating on Caitlin Clark. I'm sorry I derailed that a little bit, but it just, when you mentioned it, it kind of made me think about what she did and how
she's in LA.
Yeah.
What better way to have a rivalry? You played football before, the city versus the country.
Oh, yeah.
That's because that's what they call Indiana, the country. They call it nap time for a reason. A lot of guys call it nap time for a reason.
Yeah,
but I'm just going to be, but the thing is, people give you a lot of flack on the internet and I see it. But the thing is, people have to look at what Magic Johnson said. The definition of a superstar, where you could go on the road and sell out the arena.
Yeah.
That is the definition of a superstar. Now, granted, Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces, 4 years in a row, they sold out their home crowd. They sold it out. They were the first WNBA team to sell out their home games for the entire year for 4 years. Just when they was winning championships and doing everything of that nature. She is a cultural icon. But the thing is, you have to think about the masses when you think about a lot of things. When you think about the masses mean the casual fan. I'm a hardcore WNBA fan. I've been watching it for years. I remember when it was her and Elizabeth Cambage was rocking. I remember Elizabeth Cambage scored the most points in WNBA history in one game with Asia Wilson by her side. So I remember when that Las Vegas Aces team was loaded. I remember that they had Candace Parker, Kelsey Plum, Asia Wilson, Cambage. I remember they had Sydney Colston. They had a little bit of everybody on that team. I mean, if you really look at these by NBA standards, if you really look at some of these rosters at the top of the league, a lot of these rosters, if you were to switch around, they would be considered super teams. Like if you switch it around and say, hey, look at the roster of the New York Liberty. You got you have 2 MVPs on that team, Jonquel Jones and Breanna Stewart. And you got one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. But the thing is, to your point, a superstar, you are defined when you can go on the road, whether they want to see you or they want to boo you. Where you can go on the road and sell out the arena. And like I said, I'm an Angel Reese fan, man. So the thing is, I had the shirt and everything with her and Flage when they was doing their thing back in college. But the thing is, as far as superstar, you have to put Caitlin Clark up there. And I'm an Angel Reese fan. Like I said, I always sing her praises. I remember when she won the Unrivaled Defensive Player of the Year. And this is where that's coming from, a lot of it. A lot of the players that's in charge of the Players Union is the founders of Unrivaled. Yes, they're the founders of Unrivaled. So all of those players got at minimum $250,000 in their first year of Unrivaled. And one of the players actually got hurt, and they covered her entire WNBA salary for the entire year. So the players for Unrivaled, since they got invested in by a lot of basketball players and a lot of the players in the WNBA. That's how they're coming to the table by trying to get some of the same things of that. Nafisa Collier, outside of being the best player in the league right about now, outside of Asia Wilson, she's in charge of the players union. Who's the founder of Unrivaled? Her and Breonna Stewart. But to your point, I wouldn't have opted out this year. Sometimes you have to let the ball roll, as we say down south. You got to let the ball roll. And when that snowball gets downhill, that's when you strike. I think it was a mistake this year because the thing is, you don't know how injuries are going to go. You don't know how ratings are going to go. Like I said, that injury bug bit, and it bit hard. I mean, 3 starters, Satu Sabali, Caitlin Clark, and another Jonquel Jones, who had her dramatic return tonight. They didn't even play in the All-Star game. Yeah. I mean, and Ryan Howard too. She didn't play in the All-Star game. So you can't predict how injuries are going to go, especially when you're in a collective bargaining agreement. So you can't predict that. Not to mention, man, you got to think about this. You opt out your first year. You haven't made a profit and you have nothing to really bring and say, hey, this is what's happening. Now, I want them to get paid, but at the same time, you're putting all of your eggs on this 1 year. You're putting all your eggs on 1 year. And as you know, a lot can happen in 1 year. But I will say this, regardless of what people are saying right now, they're going to get their money. Yeah. Because I'm going to tell you just like this. Right now, the W has an audience, and they take up the entire summer. Kids are out of school. They have games at noon to bring the kids in for camp days.
Yeah.
So they have
that's smart by the W.
Yes. So they're going to get their money. They're going to renegotiate because right now, look, they are looking. You have to be on the right side of sports history. You might not want to give them what they want, but you have no choice at this point because right now you're in the middle of like what I like to call peak seasons. What do I mean by that? The thing is this: you are at your peak right about now. Can you imagine what a work stoppage would do for you right about now?
Yeah.
So let's say a work stoppage happens. It extends to May. Then no deal. June, no deal. July, no deal. Now come 2026, you in August. Oh shit. Now you got to compete with the NFL.
Not happening.
Okay, you have to compete with the NFL. Yeah. And I am a hardcore WNBA fan. I have 2 TVs stacked on top. I have one mounted on the wall and one right up on the dresser, and I'm able to watch games from there. But when it's time for that pigskin, every red-blooded American in the world is going to be watching that pigskin.
Yeah. Yep.
So guess what? You're going to lose a hell of a lot more than you're going to win if that collective bargaining agreement isn't done by next year, at least before the draft. Yeah. So they're going to get it done because the summer belongs to them. We all love baseball, but it's something about the W that brings you in. The physicality. They are everything that we want the NBA to be. We want the NBA to be physical. We want the heated rivals. We want y'all to have fun off the court. But when you come on this court, we want you to go out there and terrorize and torture somebody. Yeah. So we want that. You know, they criticize the ladies for that. But the thing is, we're asking the same thing out of the NBA player. Man, why aren't y'all physical? Why aren't y'all doing y'all thing? Why is it like the old days? When you ask the old heads, like my father, my uncles and stuff like that, this is the softest era. Okay, now we have that in the W. We got the physicality of the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. So you have that going for you. So you have no choice if you're the league but to get the deal done, because if it comes May and you don't have a deal and this stretches out until August, you're about to lose a hell of a lot of fans, because guess what? Pigskin, not even LeBron James,
nothing's bigger than football. Nothing.
On Christmas Day couldn't beat. The pigskin is so big that people will rather watch a sorry football game than to watch any other sport. They would rather watch, let's say, the Jacksonville Jaguars play anybody. Play the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, some other bum team. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So That's what they gotta realize. You got your audience right now. It's kind of like the club. All right, you got your crowd in. Okay, what you gonna do to capitalize on it? So the league ain't got no choice if they want to succeed at this point. They got to give it to them. Otherwise, when they come next summer and your audience is not there, it's gonna lose a lot. And not every sports has the capacity in order to survive a strike. Look what happened with hockey.
Yeah,
the strike happened. It was never the same. Baseball, that strike happened, and it took the steroid era in order to bring it back.
Yeah.
The only
XFL didn't survive. XFL didn't even survive COVID. That's basically like a strike. Like you can't take no years off, man. Like it, especially when you're in like a weird peak. Like, yeah, like you can't, you know. Stages. And listen, the WNBA has been around since '97, but again, we're talking about they've been treading water. When we're talking about physical, actual growth, like between last year and this year, this is it. This is kind of like the start for them. They've never seen this type of growth. Before we move on to football real quick, we talked about injuries and things like that. Do you think they should have expanded rosters before they expanded franchises? I'm from Philly. I'm happy that Philly's getting a team, so I can't really say because I'm biased. Like, you know, fuck them rosters as long as Philly gets a team. Now, Philly wasn't one of the 3 teams, and I 100% would have said expand the roster, but Philly's getting a team finally. So, but do you think it would have been smart to expand the roster from 12 to, let's say, 15 or maybe 16, considering that, you know, there's not many teams, not as many teams as the NBA. And like you said, with the rosters and, you know, the WNBA has a different problem than the NBA because the women can get pregnant. And like Caitlin Clark's boyfriend's under the most stress in the world because one missed stroke, he can end the WNBA season. That's not good for anybody. That ain't good for nobody. So do you think they should have expanded rosters to compensate for like seemingly more injuries because they have less stars too, right? So like you need a bigger roster because like, you know, these teams can get derailed real quick, and then obviously they have to deal with things like pregnancy and things like that. So do you think they should have expanded rosters instead of teams?
I think they should have done both, expand the roster and expand the teams, because guess what? You need a deep roster because injuries happen. Hell, Cameron Brink tore her ACL last year. She's just not getting back.
Yeah.
So you're going to need that deepness in order to get. And the thing is, what they don't tell you is when they bring in a player in order to, you know, fill in for somebody injured, when that player gets back, that player gets the other player that they brought in, they get released.
Yeah, that sucks. That sucks for them. They definitely need to look at expanding the roster.